Hello everyone. Today we will be going over Quicksilver by Callie Hart. This is the first book in the Fae and Alchemy series. This book I did read on Kindle Unlimited. This is a non-sponsored, by the way. I just want to let you know that I don't have a physical copy, so when we do get to the cover review, we'll be looking at it in one of the corners up top here. If you're new here, welcome. If you're coming back, welcome back. As always, it is a pleasure to have you here with me today on Dragon's Hoard, and as you know, if you're a returning visitor, we do like to pick apart book covers before we go into reviewing the contents of said book. Alright, so we're going to start off with our cover review. The cover of Quicksilver, when I read it, was the original cover when the book was released. It had a person on it, which of course was the MMC. He was the focal point, dressed in all black with dark hair, some stubble, and is armored up. So on this cover, there are a lot of details to take in, but they're quality details. The illustration itself is well done, and we can also see what appears to be a forested background behind the MMC. And that forested background is covered in fog, so that does give us a little bit of an ominous feeling. And then around his head, we do see some very brightly colored butterflies just flying around his head. They're very bright purple and fluorescent blue, so we do know that these butterflies aren't exactly something we would see in real life. We suspect, since the title of the book is part of the Fae and Alchemy series, that we will be seeing a lot of Fae or Fae elements within this story, so we can pretty much be certain that we will be traveling to the Fae realm. The lettering of the title itself is definitely bold, but it's also very ye olde day-esque type with a calligraphic feel to it. It is of course written in silver letters, but we also notice a small silver teardrop falling from the MMC's left eye. Now, I'm not entirely sure what I'm getting into yet as far as the cover review, because this was, like I said previously, whenever I do a cover review, it's usually before I even read the book itself, but I do believe that it has something to do with the other realm. So now that I've described some of the focal points of the cover, we do know that the details of said cover draw you in, and it does a very good job at that, with all of the detailing, all of the focus being placed on the MMC, the butterflies in the background. Those really draw you in because it's just like a bright little pop of color, and you're like, oh, what's that? Well, at least if you're get interested in things really quickly or things that just pull your attention, stands out. That was really well done to be able to pull you in. Overall, I do like the aesthetic of the cover, and I like the size and placement of things, especially with the color choices. For me, overall, this is a 5 out of 5 cover just on the aesthetic appeal. Now, I do have a postscript note. I wrote this after I'd finished reading. I did write down, I really like the cover. However, after reading the book, it is apparent the illustrator left out a key detail on the gorget, which just so happens to be incredibly important to the plot, and I am upset about that. So that was the note that I wrote about that, which I am glad that I went back and left that, because it does bother me. Every time I look at the cover and that very important detail that should be on the gorget is not there. Alright, so today's story revolves around a simple commoner girl. Her name is Saris Fane. She has a knack for getting into trouble, okay? Typically, she's fortunate enough to get away from said trouble. However, there comes a day, in her desperation to do better for herself and for her younger brother, she just so happens to steal from an Imperial soldier in hopes of selling what she stole. Unfortunately, there is a series of events that lead to her being captured by the Imperial soldiers, and then after being captured, she is sentenced to death, which of course is only after she's had an audience with the queen of the land that we start the story in, and that would be the Queen of Zilvarin. I believe that's how you say it. So that is the kingdom where she currently resides. After being sentenced to death, the queen leaves her to an imperial guard, and she is slowly being killed by a very cruel guard. Saris decides she doesn't want to die this way. I wouldn't want to die that way either, because she's basically being tortured to death. She's being stabbed, she's being sliced. It's just awful. Once again, in her desperation, as the guard is about to strike the killing blow, she seems to awaken some type of power, some sort of dormant magic, and she somehow transforms the guard's weapon that he had in his hand from a solid into a liquid. When this occurs, she miraculously recalls that there was another sword nearby that she could, if she could get to it, she could use that to finish off this guard, and she somehow manages to drag herself across the floor to where that other sword is, of course, embedded into the ground, and manages to pull it free. Now, she is on her, I would say, deathbed, but she isn't in a bed. She is on the brink of death, okay? She is bleeding out everywhere. She's been run through with a sword. She's just in bad shape. She shouldn't even be moving, really, but she manages to do so somehow. And after she pulls this sword out from where it's jammed into into some kind of stone. She manages to then kill the guard that was torturing her to death, but when she frees the sword from where it was embedded, she also frees something else. And because of the extent of the gravity of her injuries, she is convinced that she has just seen Lord Death himself. Like, he has come for her and she knows she's about to die. So when she awakens after she's convinced that she was about to die because death had come for her, we realize we are not in the same world anymore. We are not in the same realm. And the people in this world aren't actually human. So she has now been thrust in a whole new world with new rules, new etiquette, and now our female main character must adapt herself to this new realm of Fae and other Fae beings. And now she has to try to find a way to get back to her brother because he got left behind in Zulvarin. But to be able to do so, to get back to Zulvarin, she devised a plan and made a deal with Death himself, who just so happens to be our main male character, of course, Kingfisher, who is our cover person. So this deal she made with him was of course a blood oath and is now bound to uphold her end of the deal, which is to help him fix a problem that they're having in the Fae Kingdom before she can return home. So this is what drags her into the Fae realm. This is how our story gets rolling, and then that's pretty much all I can say until later on. When we get to I'd say about the last 100 pages of the book, we do have quite a few plot twists. So after you think you've got everything figured out, high Fae, common Fae, things like that, you are wrong. Okay? You are wrong. Things are going to change. They are going to change quickly, and then a lot of things are going to happen, and you're going to meet a lot of people really fast. So just be prepared for that. There are a few smut scenes in this book. They were really well done, so that's not a big throw off. We do still follow the plot. Okay, that's all I wanted to add for that. Moving on, now we're going to talk a little bit about the magic system in this world. So the way magic in this world works, it's a little unique. It has its own elements. So as far as this story is concerned, humans themselves have no magic. No magic for the humans. Unless, of course, these humans are what is known as alchemists. Now, we are familiar with the term, but alchemists in this realm work a little differently than what we're used to seeing in other works of fiction. So usually we're used to alchemists being able to transmute anything into something else, coal into gold, philosopher's stone, those kinds of things. In this realm, in this world, it works a little bit differently. The Queen of Zulvarin, she tried to kill off all of the alchemists. So at this point in time, no one really knows how to use alchemy or what it can even be used for in its entirety. So it's important that we understand that, and we understand that their alchemy is different than what we're used to. In this world, it seems that alchemy only applies to metal, but more specifically, it applies to a special type of metal. This type of metal is known as Quicksilver, and Quicksilver has its own special properties. Another important aspect of the magic system in the world is that the Fae, they do have magic, but it does seem that high Fae have their own special, or rather unique abilities, and this is only for some of the high Fae. It's not all of them, just some of them. And then there are also some, they possess a special type of sword known as a god sword, which was imbued with magic, very powerful magic in times past, and now no one knows how to imbue their weapons with that potent or that type of magic. So those swords are extraordinarily important and powerful. They also play an important part, but I can't say anything about that. Moving on to my thoughts and opinions. For me, it has been a while since I've read anything as captivating as Quicksilver. The writing style is very thorough, but it's still easy to digest. It's not difficult to digest. I know sometimes we have very lyrical writing styles or very detailed writing styles, but with complicated vocabulary that make it a little bit more difficult to digest. It is thorough, but it's just more difficult to digest as a whole. I feel like the world building in this story is perfect for the world that we're seeing. We get enough detail to picture the world clearly of what we're reading about, but it's not so much that it's overwhelming and that we're trying to piece together what's going on or where we're at or what this looks like. No, it's enough that we get what we need to know and that we can imagine things, but not so much that like we have the specific color of the thousandth grain of sand. I think another important thing I'd like to mention in my thoughts about Quicksilver is that this story is written in first person POV, and with that we only have one POV that goes throughout the story, so we they aren't alternating POVs between our FMC and our MMC or between multiple characters that are important throughout the story. No, it's just one POV all the way through. And I don't know if I said this earlier, I think I might have, but this is an adult romantasy, so just be aware of that. But it does take us a while to get there. Just a lot of banner. It's very good banner though. It makes it worth the wait to get there. Both of our MCs are very stubborn and sarcastic, and they grate on each other's nerves like a cheese grater. Each character within this story, they have their own character flaws. Because of these flaws, then we do have room for them to grow, which is always nice to see. Like, we don't want our MCs to stay static characters throughout the entire book, and then later on, if they stay static throughout the entire series, and that gets very boring and dull, and you start to wonder, well, I know you're supposed to be Fae or human Fae, half Fae, whatever, but you don't see any growth as a person, and you know that during the book we passed mountains of time. Like, it's not just, oh, we're seeing one day go by. No, we see months and months at a time go by, and we know that these characters should have some type of development and shouldn't just be staying static and stuck in their own ways, not developing new abilities, new forms of communication, not learning how to understand maybe someone doesn't agree with them, or they can't communicate because they're so closed off to everything, or not wanting help. So I do like it when our characters go through a bit of growth. That always makes them feel more relatable, in my opinion. Our MCs do go through growth, okay? This helps keep us entertained and interested and just wanting to know more about our MCs. It draws us into the conflicts and how they resolve them and the ways they just cope with things. So when it comes down to Saris, I do like the fact that she has power, but she also knows how to fight and defend herself, so she's not just relying on her magical abilities. And I also like the fact that she isn't just automatically an overpowered character. Usually we do see that a lot in these types of stories, especially when they go from one realm into the next. They might need a little bit of training, but then all of a sudden they are completely overpowered. This doesn't happen with Saris, so she does feel a little behind the curve considering the Fae are faster and stronger, and she just feels weak compared to them. She does have vulnerabilities. I did like this. I like this a lot. She has vulnerabilities, and we can see those vulnerabilities throughout this story. That is nice to see because we do also see that she accepts help when she needs it, and she doesn't automatically turn people away when they're working on something or when she needs help. Like, somebody will offer her help and she will gratefully accept the help because she knows she needs it. Now, on the other hand, our main male character, he is pretty much the opposite of Saris. He is definitely overpowered, so I guess this is like a counterbalance between him and Saris. She's normal, average human abilities, and he is just beyond overpowered. He also has flaws and vulnerabilities, but he tries to hide them because he doesn't want anybody to use them against him. So he doesn't want anybody to try to get a leg up on him because of those vulnerabilities. This makes more sense when you read because we do see some of his backstory and we understand a little better why he wouldn't want to give someone the chance to get one up on him. So that makes it a lot more understandable. One of the things I love the most about this story was the world building. There is a variety of Fae in this story, and their descriptions are so. There is variety and descriptions of the lesser Fae in this story, and there's quite a few of them, and I really like the fact that we did get to see a mixture of Fae, more than just the high Fae with the pointy ears and the fine features. So seeing these lesser Fae brings you into this world and knowing that it's not just like the human realm that just has humans, or it's humans and high Fae with pointy ears. A little bit of difference in physical ability and some magic occasionally. No, this lesser Fae, they tend to have other types of magical abilities, but they're also more along the lines of elementals. We see some fire in there, we see some water. I believe there was also some that have to do with air, if I can remember correctly, but I don't recall right now. That they're the first that we see. And basically the fire, I don't remember what they were called, what type of lesser Fae they were, but they essentially are little piles of walking lava rock that like glow from the inside out. So I thought that was really cool. And overall, with the descriptions that the author gives us, we do have enough information to visualize them, I guess, adequately. I don't know what Callie Hart was imagining when she envisioned these little creatures. I try my best, but I don't know if this is the same thing that she imagined. I should hope so, or at least something close to it. And like I said, the high Fae in this story, they do just have like pointy ears. But yeah, the high Fae are basically just the classic elves with the pointy ears and superhuman abilities. Another world building point that I did like from this story, though, is that here in the Fae realm, the status quo for royalty is having black hair. Instead of like their hair being golden blonde or platinum blonde, it's black. So that was nice to see. That was a nice change. Good job. Now I am going to go over a little bit of the smut since this is adult romantasy. I enjoyed the smut in this book because they were well written and each scene was unique. It wasn't a repeating thing like we have seen in some of the more contemporary romance or romantasy novels recently, like Fourth Wing. You know, the lightning strikes every time. That got annoying when I read Fourth Wing. I'll eventually get my review out for Fourth Wing too. But yes, that was annoying. And then in this story, it didn't occur so often that it was obnoxious. Okay, so 5 out of 5 for the good writing, pacing on how long it took us to get to the first smut scene, and then the frequency throughout the rest of the book that we do get a smut scene. So that is why I enjoyed the smut in this book. The OG fantasy lover in me thanks you, Callie Hart, for the effort and just the quality of world building that you put into this world, into this book. I really appreciate that, and I appreciate the fact that you created a work that satisfies the detailed world building, the plot of a fantasy story, and combined it with the girly romance addiction that we all long for. Now, the only other comment I have as far as my thoughts for today would be if you don't enjoy being left on the edge of your seat, I would not recommend reading this book until the second book is out. I know I am releasing this video a little late. I read this a little earlier in the year. I just never got around to recording until now. Sorry, guys. But if you don't enjoy being left on the edge of your seat on an epic cliffhanger, do not read this until either book 2 is out, which I know it's supposed to be out on the 18th, I believe, pre-ordered, on the 18th of November, or in that case, I have no idea what is to come in Brimstone. I do know from the trailer that was released that we do have a lot to look forward to, and I can't wait to read it. But the first book does have some epic plot twists at the end, because if you don't like that, don't do it. But if you do, fair warning, with Quicksilver, if it's late and you've only got like 100 pages left, don't keep reading. Just put it down, okay? Put it down or you'll stay awake until like 2 a.m. and have to go to work at 6:30 the same morning, and that really sucked, but was totally worth it. And I really enjoyed it, okay? Would I recommend this book? Yes, I would. I loved it. I know I've seen a lot of controversy on this book for a lot of people. Some people really loved it, some people absolutely despise it. I love the roller coaster that this ends up being. This was just, it gave me all the highs and lows that I really needed when I picked this book up to read, and it just left me wanting more. Like the Umbra King, for me, this book did end up being one of my 5-star reads from 2025. I am glad that that happened, and I really love the underlying plot. I know it doesn't seem that important at the beginning, but when you get to the end, you're just like, oh my god, what's going on? What are we doing here? And then you're left like, no, why? Why do this to me? Yeah, I told you it's a roller coaster, okay? I warned you. You are warned. Be warned. Please take heed. I also loved the romance and the tension. Of course, the characters and the world building, as we've already talked about. This was a unique story. I enjoyed the unique take on alchemy and how things work as far as alchemy goes. Alchemy in this world. I enjoyed that. And I do believe this work could be read by fantasy lovers at all levels. So you could have not only newcomers to fantasy, but also seasoned fantasy veterans. Anybody could pick this up and read it, and it should be pretty easy to digest. Now, I know this is a question everybody's been waiting for. Will you read the next book? Absolutely. I am currently waiting for my book to be delivered. I can't wait, and we will have a review on book 2, Brimstone, very soon. It just has to get here, and then I had to read it, take all my notes, probably cry a little bit. I feel like this one's going to be cryable. I need answers more than anything. That is what I need. I'm probably going to read the last few pages of Quicksilver. Let's be honest, probably the last 100 pages of Quicksilver again, so I can just go through all of the plot twists again and then pick up fresh on Brimstone and make sure I don't miss anything, because I need a lot of answers. There are so many things that are left unanswered. During the last 100-page dash, that was too good of a hook to not be in it all the way. So I'm fully committed now, and I absolutely have to know what happens next. Similar reads. Prince. If I could think of anything that would be similar to Quicksilver, it would have to be Cruel Prince. I know I mentioned this a lot, Cruel Prince by Holly Black, but this is because of the vibes that we get from Jude and Carden in The Cruel Prince. The vibes match very well with Kingfisher and Cyrus. Another thing that really makes me see these as being similar reads is it has the underlying plot. The underlying plots are different. I'm not saying they have the same kind of underlying plot, but they do have underlying plots in each book, and also the amount of world building and detail that go into describing the Fae creatures, the Fae themselves, the different types of Fae, and the surroundings. Also, enemies to lovers, Fae Prince, okay. Badass human girl, yes. Badass human girl that can wield a sword, exceptional. And as I said previously, the plot, the underlying plot lines. So I know I haven't done this before, but I do want to go over my absolute favorite quote and scene from Quicksilver. I've been thinking about integrating this into each of my reads, just saying like my favorite quote or my favorite scene out of my reads, and then maybe talking about why. All right, here goes. Okay, so favorite scene from Quicksilver. And yes, I have my handy dandy binder here with me today. I think this thing isn't going to be big enough to contain all of the notes that I keep writing and cramming in here. All right, here we go. So we're going to be looking at a scene between Carrion and Kingfisher, just so we know what's going on, kind of. Don't call her Sunshine, he commanded. Why not? If Carrion's plan was to poke the bear, then he sure as hell knew how to go about it. But Kingfisher didn't respond to the taunting note in his question. He just cocked his head a little, nostrils flaring, and spoke in a low rumble. Because she is moonlight, the mist that shrouds the mountains, the bite of electricity in the air before a storm, the smoke that rolls across a battlefield before the killing starts. You have no idea what she is, what she could be. You should call her Majesty. When I tell you I squealed, I read this over and over and over again, and it never ever fails to take my breath away. I love this. I just love the fact that Sunshine wasn't enough to describe Cyrus. Okay, I know it is a compliment, but still, Sunshine isn't enough to describe Cyrus. And another thing too, Kingfisher knows Cyrus isn't a Sunshine girl because he described her as things as moonlight, mist, smoke, and all of those things, thunder, things related with storms, things that are a little bit darker in nature. So he just doesn't see Ferris as being a Sunshine girl, but he sees her as this epic being that she is to the point where she should be called Majesty, and he's a prince. Come on now, who doesn't want to hear that? That was beautiful. But I will say that Majesty was really random in there. Like, why you saying Majesty in here? I do get the feeling that when I read this, it was a bit of foreshadowing for something to come further along, but I still squealed and read this over and over and over again. Oh, I love it so much. I hope we have another liner like this that just takes your breath away. Will it be from Kingfisher? Will it be from Carrion? Is there someone new? We don't know yet, but we will soon. Alright everyone, if you've made it this far, thank you for sticking around and listening to my rambling. I know it seems like I was very scatterbrained today. I tried not to be, but I was all over the place. I guess it's just the excitement because Brimstone is on the way. I hope you had a great time here with me today. If you did, please like and subscribe. That way you'll be brought back for the next review, probably of Brimstone, but I look forward to seeing everyone here in the future. I look forward to the continuation of what's happening with Cyrus and Kingfisher. I look forward to seeing what that trailer was about. If you have any questions, conflicting opinions, or just anything that you want to discuss about Quicksilver, please drop a comment down below. If you have any other similar reads, I would love to hear what they are. And as always, it has been my pleasure to be here with you guys today, and I just really appreciate everyone listening to my ramblings. Alrighty, I will see you next time, guys. Bye!